We appreciate you coming on. You know, again, we appreciate that, man. I want to get into your name, man. Now I heard a couple of things in a couple of the singles that you dropped that it might mean this, it might mean that. Explain how you came up with your name, and is it an acronym for something?
To be honest with you, at the time when I was writing, it all came out. I can be straightforward. It all came out a moment where I had writer's block, and I was writing a rhyme one day. I didn't really have a name for myself at that time. You know, I tried to use like some when I was into the Nation of Islam, I tried to use some Islamic names, as most of the brothers did during like the early 90s, the late 80s and stuff like that. You know, I had, you know, various names in high school when I was battling and stuff like that in the 80s and stuff. And then when I really started taking music serious was like in the late 90s, like right when in Los Angeles they had some functions going on like Project Blow. You had where Freestyle Fellowship and all of them got together every Wednesday night and did their things either Wednesday or Thursday. It's been a long time since I've been out there. So it's like Wednesday, Thursday. They had like this workshop called Project Blow. They had The Good Life. And so, you know, you had things like that. You had things like the Funk Collective, where Black Eyed Peas, I used to hang out with Will.i.am and Appleby and all them, whole Black Eyed Peas crew on Tuesday nights. And so you had all these various open mic spots that people used to go and bust. And I really didn't have a name at that time, but I was starting to take it serious. And so one day I was writing this rhyme, and I was stoned as hell. And you know, that was before it was all legal and everything like that. And I was sitting in my pop's garage, and I wrote the word confident on a page. And I was like, I couldn't get past the word. It was just sitting there. I went outside. It was late at night, you know, because at that time, you know, I was taking care of his house. So my home, which was basically my home, it was more of my like writer's sanctuary at night. And so I wrote the word confident, and I went out. I couldn't get past it. I went outside, started chiefing again, went back inside, and I looked at the word, and I was like, damn, man, this is pissing me off. So I said to myself, I was like, what if I changed that C to a K and I did it backwards? I was like, that's dope. I'm like, nobody's using that name. This is before social media, so it wasn't like I was out there, you know, you can actually check and see if somebody else has that name. Right. So at that time, I was just like, yo, that fits me because I'm very confident in what I do. I've always been that way. You know, I've been a loner most of my life since I was like 14 years old and whatnot. And so, and living on the streets, getting kicked out, all these different things. I said, I'm gonna take this name, and if anybody wants to take this name away from me, they gotta, you know, we gotta battle for it. You know, I'm taking ownership on it. And so from that point on, it was just like the character, the person who I was. Everybody knew that fit who I was as an individual, you know. And I mean, we can go on more and more, but as an adult, you know, I kind of branched away. Everybody is telling me I should use my legal name. And I thought about it for a few years, you know, as I took this long hiatus, what I was going to do, even if I was going to come back into the music. And so, and then I just said, you know what, everybody calls me KON. Nobody really calls me confident anyway. And so in some of my rhymes, I'll throw in like King Kong, Konzilla, you know, and then I was like, I came up with the acronym for KON. And then when my boy, who I used to rhyme with, who was still a close brother of mine out in Los Angeles that we used to do all kinds of street stuff with when he was even a shorty, his name is Known. And then one day he was like, no, change that. He said KON should be knowledge over nonsense, because that's who you are right now. You know, you've elevated yourself from who you used to be, and now you're more mature, you're on this spiritual path, you're on this new way of life. It's not the same dude anymore. So Still be called KON, but change that. And I was like, hot damn, you know, this dude does this again, you know, because Gnome is he's very crafty with his words and the way he does things. He's still a dope MC, you know, and when he said that, I was like, I never argued with you before or anything like that, so be it. That's what it's going to be from this point on. And so I'm transitioning. That's why I named this latest project KON Volume 1, because I've never used, on the previous projects, I never used my name as a self-titled project. So by me having it just an EP where it's really only 7 songs, which originally I chose to be 5 songs. 2 of the songs came at the last minute. So that I chose to like KON Volume 1 so people can get used to the transition of me breaking away from the name Confident and moving into what I am, you know, it's KON. You know, a lot of people call me King, and I humbly accept that. I humbly respect that. At first I was like cringing when people would call me King, and the inside of my head I'd be like, nah, you know, I just fuck with the word every now and then, you know, the wordplay, but I don't look at myself as a king. But the way, you know, people would address me, it was like, okay, I get it, you know, because I respect people. I'm not that type of dude that walks around with the ego, you know. That's not me.
Good stuff, man. Now you made that trek from Los Angeles to South Florida, man. When did you do that, and why make that transition?
Oh, okay. So I was planning on leaving Los Angeles anyway, you know, around 2007, 2000. I was graduating from college, getting my master's degree in political science at that time. And my oldest kids were getting older, you know, and Los Angeles, I could see, I don't know when it was when you lived there, but I could see at the time in the 2000s, because I was out there from the early 80s all the way up until 2009 is when I left. And but the last couple years, I'd say from 2004 all the way to 2009, I was constantly traveling to the East Coast. Like I would go to New York every single year. You know, I was staying in with some family members in Fort Greene. So and then in Bed-Stuy as well. So I was all over New York when New York was still New York, you know, like it was still like 70s, 80s, 90s. It was still New York. So there was like places where like, man, like I would get off the train and catch the cab in Bed-Stuy. Like I would get off the train and catch the cab literally one block just to go to my cousin's crib, because that's how, you know, hood it was. It was like serious business. And so, but I felt free. I noticed when I was going back to see family members on the East Coast, I felt free. You know, in Los Angeles, I felt like I was trapped in a box. But when I would go to the East Coast, I was becoming free again. You know, it was like a breath of fresh air. And so when I knew when I was going to graduate, I knew eventually I wanted to be closer to my grandmother, who eventually, you know, she passed away in transition years back. But I knew I wanted to be closer to her so I could be able to provide and help out for her during that time. And so I ended up meeting my wife in Vegas. And I thought she lived in Los Angeles, and she really, she lived in Miami. So I was like, damn, man, you know, she a good woman. I ain't gonna lose this. You know, I ain't losing her. So, you know, we had a long distance relationship, and then for about a year. And then I remember her mom asking me, she was like, so what you gonna do? You gonna take my daughter away from me and move to Cali, or you move in here? And I said to myself, I was like, I didn't want to move to Miami, but I told her at that time I was thinking about moving like to DC to be closer to my grandmother. But then as the weeks went by, I was just like, you know what? I'll eventually move to Miami. So that's basically what took place. You know, I eventually did the trek, went through. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful ride, man. Moving from the West Coast to the man, a beautiful country, man.
Right.
And then
Right.
so that's basically what went down. And I hated Miami when I moved here for like years. Couldn't stand it.
Okay.
Love it now though.
Yeah, no, that's
Love it.
Miami's a nice place, man. I love Miami, man.